Hey everyone, welcome to the July session for our Getting Started with Jira Admin. Today we're going to be covering understanding custom fields, and we're going to cover everything you need to know to successfully work with not just custom fields, but what Atlassian has rebranded to just fields. And so I'm going to teach you context. I'm going to show you how to add them, how to create them, how to work with them, the different types. So much to cover. So make sure you hit that subscribe button. Make sure you hit that like button. And let me know in the comments here who you are, where you are, and if you ever created a custom field before. So welcome everybody again to our July session. Someone lowered their ears. I don't know that I lowered my ears, but I definitely cut my hair. I had to get my hair cut. It was getting a little uncontrollable. All right. So today's session is being recorded. It's going to be available on YouTube after. So again, make sure you hit that subscribe button if you haven't already. Slides aren't available because I have like 3 words on here. And so watch the YouTube recording. You're going to want to go back if I go over anything too fast for you. Again, make sure you hit that subscribe button because we do have a lot of videos on this channel. We have like 100 plus 900 videos. They have a lot of videos. There's a lot of videos on here. And so you definitely want to make sure you're subscribed. Say hello in the chat. We already have a couple of people talking here. We have Ronnie Nissen, who's here to troll and give us some interesting and different perspectives on custom fields. So he has never created a custom field ever. We also have Chad, who's another regular here. So welcome, Chad. Love to see you here. We have Naveen. Hi, this is Naveen. Yes, I worked with custom fields. Awesome. We have Israel coming in here from Barcelona, Spain. I recently created a custom field for product brand. So yeah, so we're going to talk about custom fields and why you use them, when to use them, when not to use them. So again, this is going to be a very fun one. I don't have dedicated. I don't even know why I have this dedicated Q&A section at the end. Just ask your questions at any point. We'll be covering your questions as they come through. So I'll pause every once in a while, take a look at your questions, and then go over and start from there. All right. So about me a little bit, in case this is the first time ever watching me. My name's Alex. As you can see, we do have a couple of regular people that show up quite frequently, like Chad and Ronnie. But for everybody else, my name's Alex. I like to help people with their Jira problems. I teach Jira. I have the ACP 620, 520, and 120. And in about 3 weeks, Rodney and I are going to begin our ACP 420 journey, where we're either going to get the certification right before team, during team, or shortly right after team. Lots going on towards the end of the summer here, so we'll see when we do it. But 420 is on my horizon here. Other than that, I am a YouTuber, right? So I do a lot of YouTube videos here on Jira, but I'm also the co-host along with Rodney for the Jira Life. So I'm going to post here my link tree. And so if you want to check out the merch, if you want to check out the courses, I have paid courses, free courses, a book that Ronnie and I co-authored. There's just a lot going on. So make sure you check out that link tree as well. All right. So with that said, let's jump into it. And we're going to talk about custom fields. Ooh, I keep splattering myself with the water. Okay. Ronnie says, I'm just a regular now, not a business partner friend, just a regular. Yeah. Lifelong business friend partner. Regular. I don't know, Ronnie. Let's just put them all together. Christopher says, are you the one who said I don't need certs? I am, Christopher, and I will die saying that I don't need certs. But as Ronnie just said right here, I got peer pressured. I fought this tooth and nail. But I got peer pressured, and just it's easier to comply sometimes than it is to fight the uphill battle. So Ronnie just continuously puts pressure on me to get the certifications because he's got them all. And also, I received the jacket. I received the jacket that's a Atlassian Certified Expert, and I'm not allowed to wear it until I get all 4 certifications. So I'm holding on to get the 4th one just for honor. Just literally, it's just for honor. Okay, so we're going to talk about these 4 items here. We're going to talk about custom field types, context, and adding fields to Jira screens. But before we do, we're going to get out of there. I want to talk to you. I want to have a let's go full screen here. I want to have a real conversation here with you all. Why do we need custom fields? Okay, because in Jira we have 2 different camps. We have system fields. These are fields that are out of the box, built by Jira, for Jira, by Jira. Then we have the ability to add any kind of custom field that we can imagine, and we're going to cover those in details today. But as a Jira admin, the challenging part of the job is not how do I create a custom field. That part's easy. I'm going to teach it to you in 5 minutes. It's gonna be easy. But the hard part is, should you create the custom field? And that's a question you got to ask yourself every single time that somebody requests you to add a custom field, because it's very easy to take a nice and clean, organized Jira and turn it into chaos and mayhem. And custom fields is one of the many areas where you can create a lot of chaos. And so I want you to be very cautious that just because you can create custom fields, just because you know how to create the custom fields, doesn't mean you should create the custom fields. Your general guiding principle should be, do I have an existing field right now? Because if somebody's asking for like a go live date, well, you have a due date. Are they using the due date for something else? Right. And so do you need to create a custom field? Right. You gotta ask yourself, can I repurpose? Can I just rethink of the way that the current fields that are built into Jira, can I reuse those, right? Can we just convince our team that the due date is the go live date? Because if you're not using due date for a due date and that is your go live date, well, then you don't need another custom field that does the exact same function that a due date field does, right? It's just a name, right? It's just taxonomy. And so we want to work with our teams here because it's very easy, as I'm mentioning, to take your Jira from this controlled, nice, clean, easy to maintain setup to just pure, like the world's on fire chaos. And so you want to you want to practice great self-respect here on a Jira administration duty, right? Because it's very easy for you to just do things, right? And then just have at it, and then crazy things are going to happen. All right. So that's number one. Number two, there's fundamentally two ways of creating custom fields. There's the way with team managed projects, but if you've been a long supporter of the channel here, of the show, or of these trainings, you know that I don't do team managed projects, but we're going to cover them in just a moment. And then there's the company managed ways of doing custom fields. And so I'm going to cover team managed first, but as a general rule of thumb, you want to be very careful with team managed projects because, as you're going to see, and it kind of complements my first point that I was making earlier. But when you're making custom fields for team managed projects, because of the way team managed projects are set up, where anybody can build anything, you're gonna see how easy it is to like snowball yourself into chaos and an uncontrollable explosion, right? And so we want to be very careful with how many team managed projects we author or grant, because again, it just creates entry points and chaos points for your Jira. So you want to be careful and mindful of that, right? So with that said, let's first talk about custom fields, but from a team managed perspective, because in the next like 2 or 3 minutes, I'm going to be able to tell you everything you need to know about team managed projects. And then we're going to spend the majority of the time, the last 50 minutes or so, in company managed projects. So first thing we need to do is we need to find a team managed project, because as you know, I don't use team managed projects all that often. And we may or may not have one. But here we have one. It's a team managed business. If it's business or software, it's a little bit less relevant. We just need a team managed project. So I'm going to go into that team managed project here. And then I'm going to go into my project settings. And I think, yep, this button will work up here. We can go to our project settings up here. And then here we have a field section. And this is not where I normally do this, but this is a new and improved UI. And so we come here to this field section, and we have the ability to add a field, right? And so from here, you're going to be able to pick from all the different types of, sorry, you're going to be able to pick from the existing fields, okay? And so this is something that's new. So just a quick disclaimer, right? So if you're taking notes, pay attention here. This is something that Atlassian introduced maybe 6 months ago, maybe a little longer. But when you create a company managed custom field, that field now becomes a field that's available for your team managed projects. So when I clicked here, right, when I went to fields and I clicked on the add field button here, this list of fields, these are all the fields that are inside of my Jira in general, right? These are normally for for company managed projects, but they are now available for team managed projects. So this is a step in the right direction. This is a step in Atlassian going, yep, we want to make this easier for our users. We want more interoperability between team managed projects and company managed projects. And so that's there. And this is a very welcome feature. So, but let's assume that we need a new custom field. Somebody up here earlier I think it was, who was it? Israel here said, we just created a custom field called product brand. And so when I come and search in here and I'm looking for product, right, I don't have it, right? So as you can see, it didn't show up, went away real quick. I don't have it. And so we want to create one. We want to create our custom field called product brand. And so in a team managed project, you just simply click on create a new field and you're going to be taken to the creative project field. Now here, I'm going to call it product. Oops. I don't know why my mouse is not working for me. Brand. And then we pick our field types. Now we're going to cover the different types in a minute. There's another section in here that gives us a much better visual representation and a description of what each of these are. But essentially, what you do need to know is that whenever you create a new field in Jira, you need to give it a name, and then you need to determine what type of field is that going to be. Is it going to be a short text box, as in a tweet, right? Because you can put like 255 characters. Is it going to be a paragraph? And you need to be able to put in like bullets and italicize text and make text bold and add images, right? And so the paragraph's going to allow you to do that. Do you need a date field, right? Is it just literally month, date, year? Do you need a number field, which you can perform arithmetic on? Do you need a timestamp? This is a date and a time. So July 8th, 2025 at 7:11 a.m., right? And that's a timestamp. That's the difference between the date and the timestamp is the time has a time element. Do we need a label, right? Do we want our users to be able to not use the label field, but have a field that functions like the label field? Do we want a drop down, right? Do we want our user to be able to pick from an available number of items where you can only pick one option? Or do we want a checkbox where we literally have checkboxes and the users can pick from multiple checkboxes? Or do we want to create a field that allows you to select a user? And keep in mind that when you do the people one, they need to be a licensed user, otherwise it won't work. And or finally, do we just want a URL, right? Do we just want to capture like the URL for some documentation somewhere out on the internet or something like that? We can put that here. And keep in mind that once you make your selection, once you pick like short text, right? Or I think product brand probably is going to be a drop down, right? But once you pick that and you hit the create field button here, you're stuck. The only way you can change that is by deleting the field and starting all over. So make sure you talk with your stakeholders here, right? Because whoever's asking for you to create these custom fields, because as a Jira admin, no Jira admin's waking up in the morning and saying, oh, I'm going to create a custom field today, right? Typically, some team member somewhere in your company or in your organization is asking for a custom field, all right? And so you need to make sure you get the right requirement. For example, I made an assumption that it's a dropdown, and Israel here's telling you in our case it was a text for our customer health brands, right? And so he had a text field. Now I'm glad that Israel you brought that up, because if you go down the short text field, right, as part of the admin, your job is to get the requirement, right? What does the end user want? What does my stakeholder want? Do they want a drop down? Do they want a checkbox? Do they want a short text field? Will they want a paragraph? Right? And 90% of the time, your stakeholder is going to be right. However, this is where experience as a Jira admin comes into play, because in Israel's case here, if the user comes back and says, hey, I want a text field where I can put the product brand, I'm going to fight back and I go, no, you don't want a text field. Because when you have a text field and you have the freedom to put in whatever text you want, Jira is not going to validate the text easily, at least, right? And so this is error prone. This is opening up a can of worms that you don't want to go down. And again, you don't really know the dangerous, perilous path you're going to be on until you've been burned by being on that dangerous, perilous path. And so in this particular case, what I would do is I would absolutely, as a product brand, make this a drop down, right? Because yes, so Israel here is bringing up a great point of like, hey, so a drop down's fine, but then that requires the admin to edit and add more values, right? And so this again, my friends, is where being a Jira admin is more of an art rather than a science. Because if this is a requirement, right? If my team says, hey, Alex, we want a drop down, we want a field that has all of our brands. I'm like, cool, perfect, right? And then we start having the conversation, right? Remember the first rule, right? Remember rule number one. Whenever possible, try to reuse an existing field. Now, luckily for us, and it doesn't really apply in team managed projects because I don't think team managed projects have components, but in company managed projects, we have something called the component. And the component is a field that is defined by the project admin. So the project admin can go and add values. And so you want to have this, you almost kind of want to have like a little decision tree, right? Of saying, okay, so you need a new field. Awesome. Let's start there. We have a requirement for a new field. Next question. Should the field be multiple? Like, do you want multiple entries? Do you want to have free text? Right? Do you have predetermined values that you are interested in? And let's assume they say, you know what, we have predetermined values. We know our brand. It's going to be brand A, B, and C. You're like, great. The next question is, do you want the user to be able to select all three? Do you want the user to be able to only select one? Right? And so as you're going through these questions, this as your Jira admin is helping you figure out, okay, should it be a drop down? Should it be a checkbox? Should it be a label? Right? And when we go to the company managed ones, you're going to see even more options that we have available to us, like cascading drop downs. And so you want to have that kind of a decision tree conversation. That's actually, Rodney, if you're still paying attention, let's do one of those for the Jira Life, right? Where we help you figure out the path that you want to take ultimately, right? Because if we determine, hey, we want a field that is multi-select, right? We want our users to be able to pick any brand, right? Or from any brand, then I don't need to necessarily create a custom field, because then the next question is going to be, can we use the components field? Because there's a field in Jira called components that is user definable. So a project admin can put values or remove values without having to bug the Jira admin, right? So that's a question you got to ask yourself. Next question, Israel, that you would ask yourself is this project a team managed or company managed? Because if it's a team managed project, then I can give them a drop down, and any project admin is going to be able to come in and add values and remove values. So it's very important that you understand your project hierarchy and more intimately the requirements of that user, because depending on those requirements, it's going to take you down one path or down a different path. And there's just a lot of paths to take. And so you really want to be very careful, because once you make a selection, right? Once you hit the create field, you're stuck with that option. You're not able to change the type. This field type is immutable. Although I think, Ronnie, if we can have I think so, I believe in a future episode of the Jira Life. So head on over to the Jira Life if you've never been on the Jira Life. But I do believe we're going to do a future episode of the Jira Life where we talk about features that we would like to see in Jira. And Ronnie, remind me that this is the feature I would like. I would like to be able to change the field type without having to restart the whole process all over. So that would be really cool. Anyways, so we're gonna make a selection, and then we're gonna go with like brand A, brand B, and brand C. Okay. And once you do that, and once you hit the create field, then that field is gonna be available. Now, what's interesting here though is that we made a field available. Awesome. It's right here at the top. But we now need it associated with our work types, because when I hit the create button, right, and I'm in this task, I need that product brand to show up. As you can see, it doesn't show up here. And so the next step is to come over to work types on the left-hand side, pick on the work type you care about, and then I'm going to get rid of this, and then you can add fields. So in this view, you can also thank you, Ronnie. I'm like, if you're asking me to add it to the show ideas channel on Slack right now, I'm like, I'm presenting. I'm gonna forget. Okay, so right now we are inside of a task work type, and you can see that underneath this line here, we have the ability to search for fields. So very similar to what we were just looking at earlier, when we have all the fields available to us, we can bring in any company managed field into the mix, and or we can bring any field that exists currently. And so this field is my product brand. I can pull it in, and now it's inside of the task. And so when I hit save, then when I hit create, that field is going to be somewhere in here. Where is it at? Did I pick task? I did pick task. Summary. Somebody help me find it. Do y'all see it? Sometimes you have to hit refresh. Sometimes it's not immediate. Every once in a while, you got to play a little game of patience with Jira, because she doesn't always react. There we go. Now she's in here. So product brand, and now here's my 3 brands. Now, alternatively, so remember, earlier we went to fields and we created the add field. But if you don't want to go down that route, and if you want to just explicitly put that field into a specific work type, then you would normally go to the work type, pick the type that you want, and then over here you have the ability to create basically the field as well. So we can do a date field, right? And now I'm going to do my go live date, and you can make it required here or not. And then once you're done, you can just hit save changes. And then again, after a quick refresh, after moments of time for Jira to do its thing, you can hit the create button and you will have that go live, and you can see that asterisk. So that, my friends, covers how to add custom fields inside of Team Managed Projects. And as you can see, it's very easy, very trivial. Any project admin can do this. And so this is why Atlassian loves Team Managed Projects, and which is why I hate Team Managed Projects, because one of the drawbacks, right? Well, let's start with the benefit, right? The benefit is that any project admin can customize their Jira to capture the information that's important for them. Awesome. That's really good. The drawback is, remember earlier, 20 minutes ago, I said, don't add a go live date. That's a horrible idea. Well, guess what? Yeah, Ghost. I'm in a Team Managed Project. I'm trying to prove a point, okay? I'm using it to prove a point. All right. So anyways, so the problem, right? So this is why we don't like Team Managed Projects. Because you can have any number of project admins, right? It's very easy to make somebody a project admin. You can see how easy it is for someone to just go crazy and add a bunch of fields. And you as a Jira admin have zero control over this. There's nothing you can do because you've empowered your project admins in a Team Managed Projects to be able to do this, right? And so this is why I hate Team Managed Projects, right? So Ghost, just for you, this is why we're doing this, right? Because this is a bad thing from a governance perspective. It's great when you're trying to enable your team and your team's running at 1,000 miles per hour, and processes and just ways of doing work can't get in the way because you're going to run out of cash next week. But for a company, an established company that has governance and change management, Team Managed Projects suck because there is no change management, there is no governance. It's wild, wild west. Anybody who has a privilege, which again can be literally anyone, can do whatever they want, and there is no restrictions there. And so this is why we avoid Team Managed Projects, because they're absolutely garbage. Okay, so we're gonna get off of Team Managed Projects. As, again, I absolutely hate Team Managed Projects, and they are not good for you and your company. They're great to get started, but they don't scale them. They're not what you want. So what you want is you need to be a good Jira admin to do the next part, right? Because in order to add a custom field to a company managed project, so here I have a company managed project, right? When I go to work items and I pick types, you're not going to be able to add a custom field, right? The UI looks very different. And if you go to screens, which is normally how you add a field, right? We're going to come back to screens in a moment. But when you go to the screens and you try to add a field to your screen, guess what? The field needs to exist, right? So if I type in product brand, see, notice that the field doesn't exist because that field that we made moments ago was for a Team Managed project, and Team Managed projects were self-contained, right? And so the field needs to exist first. So for the rest of this training, I'm going to teach you, so how do we do what we just did in a Team Managed project? How do we do it in a company managed project? And so the first thing that you need to know is that you do need to be a Jira admin, right? You need to be a Jira administrator to be able to do this. You can't be a product admin, but you need to be at a minimum a Jira admin, an administrator, a site admin, or an org admin. Any of those 4 levels of admin are going to get you to what you need to do. Then when you click on the gear, you're going to click on the gear and you're going to click on work items or issues, depending on where you are in the Jira UI. Once you're here, right? So if you can't get to this, right? If you click on the gear and you don't see work items, then you're a non-starter here, right? You need to become a Jira admin, or you need to talk to your Jira admin that does have this view here. But once you come to work items, on the left-hand side, we're going to skip past all the workflow stuff. We're going to skip past all the screen stuff, and we're going to go to custom fields. Now, one thing to note that I've seen Atlassian do recently is that custom fields got rebranded to just fields. And so keep that in mind, that your Jira might say something a little different. Now, the other thing that you need to do is you need to fight the urge. You need to fight every urge in your body to click on fields, because it feels so intuitive that you're going to go to the field section to add a field. But my friends, we don't do much in the field configurations. We do a couple things, but not when it comes to adding custom fields. When we want to manage our fields or custom fields specifically, we have to be in custom fields. Or again, if you're on the newest version of the UI, it just says fields. Okay. And so when you're inside of your custom fields, this is going to present you with a list of all of the custom fields that are in your Jira. Now, I wish Atlassian did a better job here because things like our description, right? Description is a system field. It doesn't show up. Okay. But things like story points that are system fields, kind of technically, they show up here. So some fields show up. I don't know. Some fields don't, some fields do. And so kind of try them out just to kind of get a good feel. But my rule of thumb is if a field shows up here under custom field, it's a custom field. If it doesn't, it's most likely a system field. Now, if it doesn't show up because it's not showing up here, right? Then you just need to create the custom field. So let's go ahead and create our product brand field. And so first thing that you do, okay? First rule before you create a custom field. If you're multitasking, I need you to pay attention to me for 5 seconds. You're going to thank me later, I promise you. Whenever you get the requirement to create a custom field, the first thing you want to do is you want to make sure that custom field doesn't already exist. Trust me, you do not want to have 10 different fields with the exact same name. You will hate yourself. Do not make that mistake. So before I make any custom field, I type in the name of the field. Now, I don't type in the explicit name of the field. I don't put it verbatim because I want the search here to find it for me, because maybe it's called, instead of earlier we've been working with product brands, maybe it's just called brand, maybe it's just called product, maybe it's called brand product, right? And so you don't want to search exactly for the field that you're going to add because somebody else, right? So if I go brand, maybe somebody already created that field, right? And so I want to be very careful. I want to kind of search on the keywords here that we're going to create because somebody might have already created that field. Second, if a field does exist, right? So maybe we have a requirement and they're like, hey, Alex, I want a product field. And I'm like, great, let me give it to you. Well, we already have a product field, but it's a type assets. And so the other thing that you need to know is that, yes, I technically can create a new product field. And yes, it's going to be of a different type. So as long as I don't make it an assets type, yes, that's totally possible. But let me show you a big, huge problem with this, right? So when we do this, when I make a checkbox called product, you know what? Too much work. Let me make a text. Dang it. Let me make a text field called product. Right? When I do this and I hit the create button, okay, I'm going to skip over a couple steps here. I'm trying to prove a point again, right? But when I hit the create button and Jira eventually catches up to me, come on, Jira, you can do it. Yes. So Naveen says another important thing is you want to check to see if there's any similar fields. And for some reason, my Jira is just tripping up. Come on, Jira. Don't make me look bad in front of the wizard. So let's create a product. Okay. Come on. You can do this. Yes. Okay. Skip all of this. We'll come back to this in a minute. Right. But watch this. When I do this, when I have a product, I'm going to come here and I have two fields that are product, right? Now, you may think, well, Alex, it's easy. I know which one's which because one's an assets object and one's a text field. Awesome. Right. You can read. Yay. But the problem isn't here. The problem is when you go to add that field to a screen. So when you try to add that field to a screen, watch what happens. So I'm going to come down here and I'm going to type in, oops, let me delete this one here. Right. I'm going to do this. I'm going to type in product. All right, folks, you tell me which one is the asset one and which one is the select list or the text field that I made. $1,000,000 for whoever gets it right on their first try. Anybody want to try and take a guess? Which one's which? You don't want you got a 50-50 shot here, folks. Like you don't want to put yourself in this situation. This is not an area that you want to be in. Okay. So you want to make sure that each of your fields are distinct enough, right? You want to name them distinctly enough so you don't make this call, right? Because yeah, technically, if I had a guess, I would have picked that second one. I think that I would have been safe with the second one, but that's not always correct. And the easiest way is to add them both, go down and see which one's like which one's which. We need to be in the right project here. I don't think I have the light. Okay. Bad example, but you get the point, and you don't know, and maybe when you're removing the wrong one. Again, you just don't want to name fields like that. Okay, so we're gonna go back to our custom fields and we're gonna delete our product because only here and only the Jira admin has the ability to see this, right? And so what you want to do every time you're creating a new project, or sorry, a new field, make sure that the field doesn't already exist. Now, if you have a field that already has a name, right, this is where you're going to want to go and pick a different name, a name that's a little bit more explicit or more descriptive. All right. Because again, you just don't want to end up in these situations where you're taking a 50-50 shot or 33% shot or 25% shot because you have 4, 5, 10 different fields that are exactly the same name. And this problem is even magnified and made even worse whenever you have migrations, right? Whenever you do migrations from like data center or from a different cloud, all those fields come over and things just get really nasty really, really quickly. So avoid that if you can. You'll have you'll thank me later. Is there a certain total fields that equals too many fields? Uh, two? I don't know. Ronnie might have an insight for you. So is there a total number of too many fields, right? So um, my 2 cents, right? There's a balance. There's a balance that you have to take between creating too many fields and not creating enough fields, right? Because at the end of the day, your team's trying to be productive, right? Your team needs to capture data, capture the work, and Jira needs to work for them, because if Jira doesn't work for them, guess what? They're just going to go to another tool that does work for them. Like, so your Mondays, your ClickUps, your Asanas, right? And so as a Jira admin, you have to walk this fine line. It's a delicate balancing act between enabling your team to be productive by complying and giving them what they want, but at the same time keeping change management and governance in mind. Because if you're lenient one way, like both extremes are bad, right? If you have no rules, no regulations, no governance, nothing like that, then chaos will happen. If you have too many rules, too much governance, too many change management, right? You have to wait a month before you get a custom field added to your Jira, then people will find a way around and they're just going to go to another tool. And so both extremes are horrible paths that you don't want to be in either path. You want to be in the path that enables your team, but there's transparency and an understanding of why we have the checks and balances. Because otherwise you end up like the US government today. Okay. And so you want to be very careful, right? And so I don't know that there's a number, right? I think we're trying to understand how many numbers, right? I've seen thousands. I've seen like 3,000 custom fields, right? But I would say keeping it. I mean, it depends on how big your team is, right? But I would say that normally 10 fields per like work type would be what I would recommend, right? Like you have your summary, you have your description, you have your due date, like maybe up to 10 more data pieces is what I would be comfortable with. And then you scale times the number of projects you have. But I would try to keep it to 5 to 10 custom fields for any given team that's trying to do work. Because anything over that, like you're just asking for some trouble here. Okay. So I've been giving you a lot of insights, right? So how do we actually add a custom field? Well, it's super easy, right? We click on the create custom field button, and then you pick your type. And so very similar to the team managed projects, we have checkboxes, but the only thing I like about this UI is that it tells you a description and a better picture. So we have our checkboxes, we have our date picker, we have our date time picker. You want to be very mindful here. If you're using the Jira Advanced Roadmaps plans, this date time picker is incompatible. So you have to pick just date picker. We have labels, right? Which again is not going to replace the labels, but it behaves like the label field. We have our number field, which allows us to do arithmetic and automation rules with math. We have our paragraph, which is just a big fat body of text. We have radio buttons. And then this is where things get a little bit different than the team manage. We have a cascading list. So I believe somebody had asked, let me see if I can scroll up. Here we go. How to create parent-child drop-down like project issue types loading. Not sure I understand that question, Smart Inf, but your cascading here would be the closest thing that you get. Keep in mind that your cascading list here only gives you 2 levels. I wish, Rodney, let's add this to my wish list. We should be able to have a multi-cascading list, in my opinion. I should be able to define my cascade as many layers as I want to, but you are limited to just 2. Heck, I would take 3. I think 3 would be a great number, but 2 is what we get, which I think is limiting. I think 3 would be the sweet spot. I think a lot of companies want something like 3. But this is the only way to do cascades. We have multiple choice, which basically behaves like your radio button. Sorry, it behaves like your checkbox, except that you see the list. It looks like a drop down, but you can pick into it and get multiple values. We have the select list single choice, folks. This right here, if I would have $1 for every time I've made a select list single choice, I'd have like $1 billion right now. This is the field that I 99.9% of the time use this. We have short text plain. This is again the tweet. We have the URL, and then we have the user picker, which again, remember, you need to be a Jira licensed user to be able to be selectable. So if you have like a stakeholder, right? If you have like a VP, right? Like you have to pick the VP that's responsible for something. If that VP doesn't have a license to Jira, guess what? You're not going to be able to pick that VP's name. So you may have to do a drop down, this single select drop down, and then put the VP's name in there. All right. I don't find any custom field for attachment. So over here on the left, there's an advanced section. And in the advanced, I'm not saying that there's an attachment one, but because attachment's already in Jira, right? So you don't need a custom field for your attachment because attachment's already natively built into Jira. So Naveen, you have no need for that custom field because you don't need it. It's already there. Okay. But that does nicely transition us to that there are advanced ones. So especially when compared to team managed projects, you can see that we have way more options. So if you have JSM, you can have your assets. We have date for first response, date for last comment, domain of assignee, group picker. So this is cool. So if you wanted not to do a specific user, but a specific group, then again, as long as the users know the name of the group, we can do this. We have numbers of attachments, numbers of comments, reactions, sliders, times and statuses. Some of these might be from add-ons, so don't quote me on all these. We have version pickers as well. So as you can see, we do have some more advanced fields, some more advanced options that are just simply not available in the standard version. Now, to keep things simple, we're going to just go to our select list. This is our dropdown, and we're going to do product, brand, and we're going to do the same thing. We're going to do brand A, brand B, and brand C. Okay. And once you add those, you're going to hit create. And sometimes Jira will show you the screen, and sometimes it'll crap out and you got to refresh and start all over. Now, when we get to this screen, you have 2 options. You can either A, start selecting some checkboxes, or B, you can scroll all the way to the bottom and click update. If you scroll all the way to the bottom, nothing bad happens, but you just made a field that's not used by anybody. If you want the field to be useful, you need to add it to a screen. And so you are presented with a little bit of a chicken and egg situation because in order to add it to a screen, you need to know the name of the screen. And so when you get to this screen here, when you get to this menu option where you got to make a selection, make sure you come prepared. Make sure you know which screen you're going to add it to. But you don't need to, right? So it is possible for you to just go all the way to update, scroll all the way down, and just make the field, right? And so the field exists now, right? So I can go to product brand, and if I click onto the ellipses here, one, it exists. It's a single choice, yay. And then I can confirm the values over here, and I can see my A, B, and C, okay? But how do we add it to a project? Well, that's where we got to go. My preference is we go to our project, we go to the project setting, And the reason I do it this way is because my memory is like Finding Dory, where I don't have a good memory. I forget things very easily. And so you're going to want to come to your project settings, and then you're going to go to screens. And the reason I like this is because you can't miss at this point, right? You know exactly the name of the screens that you're going to impact. And so here's my screen. And so I click into my screen. I go to the bottom. You got to scroll down. Product, brand, and I'm done. That's it. You've now added your field to your project. And so again, to do all of this, so two-step process. So only only Jira admins can create the screen. Ah, my God, I can't speak. Scratch all that. Only Jira admins can create the field. But once the field exists, then I do believe your project admin might be able to do this. No, scratch all of that too. You need to be a Jira admin to do all of this. It's always hard for me to tell because I'm always the admin of everything. But you need to be a Jira admin to be able to add fields to screens. Okay. But once you do that, then you can test it out. You can click the blue create button. Make sure you are in the right project. Make sure you're in the right work type. And then scroll around and you'll see your product brand right here. And then we can pick A, B, or C. And that's simple, folks, right? It's very, very easy to do this, right? Now, let's go into a more challenging use case, right? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to my view our projects, and I'm going to look for a company managed project, right? I'm going to look for a company managed project here, and I have this mobile one. We've been working off mobile program, MP, but I want to add that field to mobile dev as well. And so this is the nice part about company managed projects is that we can go into mobile dev. I can go to project settings, right? I can go to my work types. I can go to my screens. And guess what? Because we did this in a company managed project, right? And we did a custom field, we simply go to the screen, go down to the bottom, type in product, and there's our field. If we would have done team managed projects and we want to add the same field to team managed projects, now it's a little bit easier, but back then you'd have to create the same field over and over and over and over and over and over. So we don't have to do that anymore. Naveen, which step do you want me to repeat? There's quite a few steps that I just did. So which one is not clear to you? Project admin can configure the layout, but can't add the field to the screen. Yes, so great point, Ghost. All right, so while Naveen's telling us which step he wants me to repeat, I'm going to continue with my last and final use case of the day here. And so what we've done though is, right, we have product brand, and when I go to this project, mobile dev, I can come down to product brand and I see ABC. Alternatively, I can change over to MP, scroll down to the bottom, and I can also see ABC. But what happens when the requirement is I want the mobile project to have values X, Y, Z? I want different values. I don't want A, B, and C. In the chat, let's see who knows their stuff. Let's see who knows their Jira. How can I add a field called product brand, but with different values? I want values X, Y, Z. What are your thoughts? I'm going to take a swig of water here, but what are your thoughts? How can I achieve this? How will you do it? I'm curious to see what y'all are thinking. How would you achieve this? How do you add a basically the same field, but with different values? All right, I mean, I got you. We'll cover adding the field again in a second. So Suneja says in project settings. Okay, so we'll come back to that one right now. We'll do that. Actually, let me do it while I'll give you guys a couple of minutes. S4U says use security level. Okay, that's an idea. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to repeat the steps here for Naveen, and then we're going to come back and I'm going to show you how to make the field different. Okay, so here's what I do. When you want to add the field to a project, at least company managed, I open up the project settings. I go to work items and I go to screens. Again, you got to fight every urge to click on fields. You do not want to click on fields. You want to click on screens. You expand your screen scheme, click on your screen. And once you're there, you scroll all the way to the bottom and you will see the select field item. And then you can type in the name of your field. Again, chicken and egg situation, the field needs to exist first, and then you can add it. Once you do that, then it's available. So Rohit here, we got an expert in the room here. So you want to do something called the field context, right? And so when we go to our screens, right? If we want two different projects to have two different values, but it's the same field, you have a couple of options. Option A, you make the same dumb field again, but that's not the good answer. That's not what we want. We do not want to recreate a field a second time. We don't want another field that's called product brand, right? That has the other values that we want. That would be silly. That is not the right thing to do. So what you want to do is you want to go to your existing field. Right, so we find our product brand here. And what you're going to do is you're going to click on these ellipses here, and we're going to go to context and default value. Once you do that, there is an add new context button up here on the top. And so you're going to want to click on that. When you click on that, it's going to give you the name, right? So for Rohit. And then you can add a description if you want to. But down below, we're going to have to make a couple of options. Now, I would do an or statement. I don't do both. I don't do this and this. I typically just use the project. And so normally, I am going to restrict it to a project. So let's go to mobile program, MP, right? And I'm going to click on add. And that means that when this field recognizes that it's in the MP program or project, it's going to behave differently. And so as you can see here, I now have two different contexts, the default one and then the one for Rohit. And so when I click on edit options here, I'm going to be able to put brand X, brand Y, and brand Z. And so now once I do that and I click on done, you're going to see that we have a context for brand ABC and a context for brand XYZ. And now the magic just takes care of itself. So when I go to mobile and I go down to product brand, I have ABC. But when I change to MP and I go back down, I have XYZ. So this, my friends, is how you make how you basically use the same field without having to clutter or make a mess out of your Jira, and you give different context for people. And again, it works based off of issue type or work type or project or both. I usually just pick the project. Usually that's enough, but there are some restrictions and limitations. So I recommend you check out the official Atlassian documentation to get all that information. All right, so that's the custom field types, that's context, and that's adding fields to Jira. So I'm going to open it up. If you all have any questions, we can take some questions, but I will take the time here to remind you folks that I do have a membership opportunities here on this channel. So if you haven't become a member, you do get early access to all the videos, and you also get member only videos. So check out those different, hit that join now button and check out the different options to see what's available and what you like and how you can help support the channel. As for you says, if we're in the same project and different work items, how can we use context? So within the same project, so you do have a limit, and I do believe that the limit is you can only get for one. So for example, like your bug and your story can have different contexts, but you can't have one for the bug, one for the story, one for the task. I do believe there's a limitation there. So I believe you get one per project. So you want to choose wisely. But yeah, essentially all you got to do is when you add your new context, and we can test it here, you pick your work type, right? So if you want the bug to have it, then you click on add, and now it's going to apply it for any bug, right? And so like 4 bugs. But this is where you don't want every bug to do this, right? You want every bug in this project to do it. And that's where it becomes an and statement. And so you click on add, and so now any bug that is in this project is going to have this problem or this value. Now, what's interesting is you'll notice that my mobile program is not available, right? And that's because it already has a context. Remember, I was telling you, you get one freebie, right? You get one per project. And so my mobile program already has a context, and that's it. And so if you wanted to have a different value for a story, and then for a task, and then for a bug, you want 3 different values, that's not possible. Not at least this way. That path would have to be, then you have to create a custom field called like product brand story, product brand task, or epic product brand, or something like that, right? Where now the unique field, the field name is unique so that you don't confuse them. Okay. Because at the end of the day, you just don't want to get confused. You don't want to create these custom fields that confuse you. So be responsible there and be smart about it so you don't get confused. All right, folks. So again, just to remind you, I do have a membership opportunities here. We're hitting the second end of the year, right? And so I just also want to remind you that I have a couple of courses. I have this Jira for fundamentals, right? So if you have anybody in your company that is completely and totally new to Jira, check this one out. This course right here is just completely for beginners, just to kind of get your feet wet on what Jira is. Now, if you're a Scrum Master and you're trying to figure out what Jira is from a Scrum Master project management perspective, we got this other one here that is going to give you a little bit more foundations on just how to Scrum and how to do everything else. A quick spoiler, I am working on a new ACP 620 course that we're going to be launching on Udemy. So if you're studying or preparing for ACP 620, we're going to be dropping that course as well. I also did just drop the links to my link tree. So if you want to get a hold of me, maybe you need some one-on-one help with Jira, I have that available. Again, become a member. I have buy me coffee if you need some one-on-one time there. A couple of options for you. As you can see, we are in the second half of the year. And so we are quickly winding down. And so on this section, we're going to be talking about field configurations next month. So make sure you sign up. I'm going to drop a link to where you sign up for these classes. And so sign up so you get the reminders, and you can go see those recordings there. But we are going to be talking about field configurations next. And then if you are a Scrum Master, we do have a Scrum Master course, and then we have a Jira Advanced Roadmaps course over here. And so definitely sign up for one, sign up for all of them, but make sure you come back. And then at the very, very least, if you just want to connect with me on LinkedIn, I'm always accepting connection requests from my students here. So reach out to me on LinkedIn. Again, that link tree is going to work for you there. Follow me or connect with me. Become a member. As I mentioned, we have a couple different offerings for you all. Free courses. I have paid courses. I have a merch store. I subscribe to this channel. We're trying to hit 100,000 subscribers. So if you haven't hit that subscribe button, make sure you hit the subscribe button now. Go over to the Jira Life. We're like 38 subscribers away. Last time I checked. Is the 620 course taking consideration? Not yet, because the course hasn't changed yet. So the 620 course is teaching you how the test is right now. So once the new test comes out, then we will revisit. But Rodney and I, we are not subject matter experts. We keep it that way. Sorry. We're not certification experts, which means we don't get privileged information to the new test. And we like to keep it that way because then we can't do this for the community. And so I'd rather, be a little bit more blind and just give you what I know. But the test itself is very hard, and the test is unfortunately still the old style, which has multiple choice answers, and it's just a bad test overall. And so if you're thinking about taking the 620, I have not heard that it's going to get revamped. I would assume it is, though, because all the other tests are much easier, and the 420 just got updated like in April. And so I would assume that the 620 is the last one that is on the old horrific style. And so I'm assuming, again, that last is going to be updating that soon. But take it now because the training material will help for that. Other than that, again, I do plan on doing in the fall some instructor-led courses. So if you want to be in a class with me, like in a Zoom, let me know in the comment section, and maybe we can make something happen there. All right, folks, that's it for this one. I appreciate you all being here, and we'll see you either next week or next month. Bye.